over your true self. This would get you a lot closer to your true self, which the ego wants to prevent by all means. It can't handle this mechanism of subconscious separation. Use my ego only due to duality, as your suppressed ego subconsciously evaluates everything first, causing you to subconsciously assign a value to everything. These are good experiences, these are bad ones. Therefore, I won't have any more bad experiences from now on. This is how I do it right. This is how I do it wrong. So I'm doing everything right from now on. What if I told you there is no such thing as good, bad, right, or wrong? This is all a deception to keep your true consciousness unconscious, so that you only ever focus subconsciously on one side of the coin, but never consciously on the whole. Therefore, now consciously focus on the whole coin and listen carefully, because this is the most important thing to internalize and understand. All changes happen inside you first. And when you're aware of your inner enemy, in this case the ego, and you know how it operates, you have a clear advantage. Don't let the false sense of security fool you into believing that you can finally defeat the ego. That's not possible. The highest level would be living consciously without judgment, and not losing the inner balance of your true self. So your conscious true self wouldn't respond to fear, anger, hate, rage, sadness, envy, or any other feeling with a subconsciously preset experience or pattern. But instead, you act directly and unveiled with your true self, viewing the current situation in an unbiased and entirely conscious way, and being able to observe it subconsciously without passing judgment. Your authentic conscious true self. So now we've already understood the universal key. And now you can get a better idea of what overcoming the duality of the ego means. So, everyone was able to form and make their own key in their mind according to their consciousness with the raw materials of life. What now? Now we each have a very new and unknown universal key to life and ascension. But we don't know how to use it properly or what it unlocks. But don't worry, I'm not going to leave you alone with the key. Imagine, here comes the paywall. If you would like to learn more about my product, how to achieve your personal conscious freedom, then order now. Only 77,777 euros and 77 cents. With our great premium offer, you pay for 2 and get 1. And as a special bonus, just for you, we simply don't deliver the first 7,777 products at all. Nah, just kidding. Knowledge is free, so let's continue with the program. As you probably already suspected, this universal key is a direct access to your real self. To the self that can freely act and decide at any time. To the self that knows no boundaries. The self that strives for unity, not like the ego that thrives on separation. So, it's now time to learn how to properly use this universal key so you can unlock the door to your consciousness at any time. Now that you have all the knowledge, I can already hear the question within you. But if I consciously let go of everything, what I am, what I feel, what I have, or what makes me who I am, how can I not lose myself? This answer is simple, because we only just learned that we are not our minds or our thoughts. When you did the breathing exercise and all thoughts were gone and your mind was shut down, when nothing tied you to this world any longer, did you or yourself disappear? Because you were just consciously in the here and now. The external environment had no effect on your conscious inner life at that moment. However, the ego, with all its evaluated experiences, wants you to subconsciously believe that you are your mind and your thoughts. And it's precisely here that we discover a huge error in humanity. Many people think that when a person screams and rages a lot, so he expresses negative emotions, this person must be an angry and aggressive person. His thoughts must be obsessed with something like this. But without knowing what this person's true motives are, we unconsciously judge this person and consciously evaluate behavior with phrases like, he behaves this way and that, so he must also be a person like this and that. But this answer isn't quite that simple. That's why I'll come back to them later. Before that, let's answer this question: the fear of the complete loss of your true self. So you were consciously in the here and now, only with you, your true self, and there were no ego-based dualistic external influences. And those 10 seconds alone gave you energy and strength again. Now imagine if this unconscious, energy-consuming vortex of subconscious evaluated experiences no longer had any effect on you. No more exhausting arguments because you realize that the dispute is not the solution. No longer avoiding situations out of fear because you know no matter how you handle them, there's no right or wrong. It's just a necessary step in your life journey. Your rage simply dissipates because the old unconscious patterns are no longer effective. And you've consciously learned that getting upset doesn't help. In this example, you lose your argumentativeness, fear of failure, and the urge to lash out in anger. Because the ego shadow was able to unconsciously exert control over our level of identification for so long, we've come to identify with these traits of the unconscious ego. With the bickering, fear, and anger. This leads to the misconception that this is our personality. But essentially, you're unconsciously going against your most inner self. Because the ego still has far too much control over your subconscious, your feelings, and your mind at this point. And it wants you to believe that these are all your actions, so that you don't think about your true self and come into conscious self-awareness. Because whoever is really facing existential fears here is the ego and not your true self. So far, I've mainly addressed the negative experiences and emotions. But as mentioned earlier, the ego can also keep you away from your true self with counterfeit, positively evaluated experiences and emotions. For example, you are a person who can forgive quickly and easily. The ego is also likely to let you deceptively forgive things in fake forgiveness that subconsciously hurt you in your true self. Tell me, how is your true self supposed to truly learn to discern if it has never consciously looked at what's going on inside you? If the ego weren't so strong here, people would learn much more quickly to consciously throw their pearls before swine. Real trust, for example, has something to do with recognition. How are you supposed to trust someone you don't know? You would always have a spark of distrust in you, or at least not be able to fully let yourself go. However, for this trust, much more truth would have to be spoken in this world, but most prefer to live their lies to the end. So for now, you can trust no one but yourself, for who or what you are. False trust could also be equated with blind trust. Or consider the wrong self-reliance. Self-reliance is an important quality to bring stability into your life. But false independence can quickly close your heart unconsciously and make it hard. As a result, your ears become deaf to life's help and advice. Because you know you can already do everything a lot better than the others, leading you back into conscious separation. Let's consider false self-confidence. A healthy and authentic self-confidence is very positive. Many doors are open to you with this trait. But what if you approach it with false self-confidence? You won't consciously move into areas where you subconsciously don't feel safe or comfortable, because the trust in your true self hasn't been consciously awakened. That tells you you're more than enough, you're perfect, so don't be afraid. You're perfect, so don't be afraid, 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 so don't be afraid. So don't be afraid, 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 so I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, so don't be afraid, I don't have any fear, so don't be afraid, 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 so don't be afraid. These are all low vibrating feelings: 3D shame, guilt, apathy, sorrow, fear, desire, anger, pride, etc. These are all emotions under 200 and originate with the ego. Emotions that stem from separation. And this feeling of separation is usually felt hidden deep within oneself. Few examples. In the room where the air was so heavy just a moment ago, there might have been an argument. Due to this low vibration of anger, you feel very uncomfortable at the place. Or you would prefer to leave this room immediately. Again, grief is a vibration. If we are exposed to it for a long time, we slowly absorb it. By the way, the same goes for despair as it does for grief. Or if we have once again done something wrong and already feel the anger of the person, even though they are no longer present. Imagine that one person can have such authority over another person. Crazy. These are all low vibrating feelings. To awaken these frequencies, it takes little to no effort. A wrong look, a misspoken word, a thoughtless action, or any other small mistake. These people are trapped in the ego and thus unconsciously allow themselves to be carried away by any subconscious emotion immediately. In doing so, these people are unknowingly, almost unconsciously,